Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar. We are joined with Karl Hayward and Peter Littlewood from Alan Boswell, who will be talking about big changes ahead. Are you prepared? If you have any questions, you can pop them in the questions box and we'll try and get through them at the end. Alternatively, you can email events@propertymark.co.uk. We'll now pass you over to start the webinar. Thank you.
Thanks, Kelsey. Welcome, everyone. Hi, Peter. Thanks for dialing in. Hiya. I think it's best, Peter, if we start with an introduction, a bit about the companies that we represent, and obviously ourselves, and then I'll just go over a brief agenda, topics that we're covering off, and then we can go through them each at a time and give the representatives all the information that they need and what they've dialed in for. So just for myself, so Alan Boswell Group, I'm sure, and I would hope that a lot of you on the call have heard of us. We are one of, if not the largest, fully independent insurance broker now in the UK. We were established in 1982. We have over 400 staff now across 7 branches in the Eastern region. We have won several awards, Insurance Broker of the Year 2023, and it has also been confirmed recently that we are a finalist for the 2025 award. So we're looking forward to that ceremony and finding out in July whether we're successful there. We have also got a Which Best Buy Landlord Insurance Award. Our NIG product has won consecutively 2023 and 2024. We also have a FIFO Platinum Service Award for our customer service and reviews. And we insure well over 100,000 properties now on our books. A bit about myself. So I've worked in insurance now for almost 21 years. I know I don't look old enough, but it's true. And I have worked now at Alan Boswell Group for about 4 and a bit years. I am the account manager for our lettings team, and I'm predominantly dealing with relationships and sales and service with the hundreds of agents that use us. Peter, do you want to just introduce iHowz and yourself?
Indeed, of course I can. Thank you, Carl. I do look old enough, unfortunately, so there you go. Counter that one immediately. I'm with iHowz Landlord Association. We're a trade association for landlords and agents. Been around since 1974. Not me, but the firms. The association started originally in 1974. So we've got a lot of experience. Got a lot of people who know what they're doing. So it's all about keeping landlords and agents up to date with everything that goes on. I'm aware that Property Mark do the same sort of thing, but we do it specifically for landlords and non-Property Mark agents. So that's us.
Brilliant. All right, thank you. So just to go over a brief agenda, things we're going to be talking about and covering off from both an iHowz and Alan Boswell perspective. Obviously delving into the Renters' Rights Bill and the changes ahead as well. So changes around pet ownership by tenants. Going to be helping you guys understand the new regulations regarding tenants' rights to keep pets and best practices for landlords to accommodate these changes whilst maintaining property standards. We're also going to be talking about the eviction process and removal of Section 21. And we are also going to be talking about the loss of ability to renew fixed term tenancies and how that will affect you. And also the importance of airtight tenant referencing and how that will help you moving forwards as well, and how we can help you with that. So, Peter, shall we kick off?
Indeed.
Okay. So changes around pet ownership by tenants.
Okay. The first thing to say is that the Renters' Rights Bill is still going through Parliament. So everything we're about to say to you it's got the caveat that it might change. We're pretty certain that what we're going to tell you won't change. But do just bear that in mind. Keep on top of what's going on. It's been going through the Commons. It's currently going through the Lords, and the government want to try and get this as an act before the summer. I was told by a civil servant it would be enacted in the spring, but their definition of the spring was a bit fluid and might go into the autumn. So there you are. That just opens it up. It could be any time between now and October. Just wait and see. But specifically about pets, actually the situation has not changed very much, because if a landlord, hopefully a landlord's got a contract between the landlord and the tenant, whether you've arranged that or whether you've done it directly is immaterial, but they've got a contract, therefore it's subject to contract law. And because of contract law, you can't discriminate against people you're contracted to. One of those is you have to have a good reason for turning down a pet. What basically the rights bill is going to do is it just really reinforces that and specifically states, unless you've got a good reason, the landlord or perhaps the agent on behalf of the landlord cannot turn down a pet. It's not really been decided. There's been a lot of debate about what is a good reason. There are some which are incredibly obvious. So, you can't keep a horse indoors. Something like that would be very, very obvious. But if it's a small property, can you keep a large dog? Probably not. Probably not appropriate. If it's a cat and you've got a top floor flat and a block of flats, and you're not able to put a cat flap in the front door, again, that might be a reason. So it is very, very difficult. What I would say to you on behalf of your landlords is, if your landlord says, I don't want a pet, just basically say, well, I'm going to act in the position as a judge. I don't know the situation. You have to persuade me why I've got to turn down a request for a pet. And if I can't be persuaded, then I'm afraid it's likely that a judge won't be persuaded either. So it's all down to persuasion, really. So that's it in a nutshell, Carl. So on pets.
Okay, all right. Thank you for that. But the sort of informational conversations I have on the same subject and questions I get probably asked daily by agents and landlords alike is with the upcoming changes around pet ownership. Surely us as a company are going to be selling standalone pet damage cover, which will obviously then pick up all the events and potential events that an animal could cause in a property, and therefore kind of do away with the issue and pick up the bill and the cost of putting things right. Unfortunately, though, that's just not the case. There is no silver bullet, I guess, from an insurance perspective that is going to be able to cover all eventualities and anything that could arise to a claim. It would either be really expensive or it just wouldn't be viable for an insurer to put a policy out there that is just going to pay out for each and every claim. So us as a company, we do have a ready-made solution, as you would expect. So we have connections with an insurer called SAGIC, which is an acronym for Salvation Army General Insurance. So they allow us to offer an extension of cover to cover pet damage on both their landlord's insurance product. So we're in the landlord's insuring the buildings, contents, liabilities, but they also give us access to a tenant's contents and liability policy, and also allow the tenants to extend cover to include pet damage on that as well. Now, with all insurance products, there are T's and C's. So anything that happens over a period of time, so persistent fouling, it might get to a point where people are happy to clear it up every now and then, but it gets to a point where they just can't do anything with it and therefore try to make a claim. That wouldn't be covered. Neither would flea infestations either, as you would expect. So those issues are still going to be about. However, if an animal does destroy something in one occurrence, say a dog got locked in a room, for example, and then went mad, might be fouling, might be chewing, etc., then that would be covered as a one-off event, and it would be cover up to £5,000 for each and every event, and also it would be subject to a £500 excess as well. Now, this cover is available, like I say, on either landlord's product that Salvation Army provide us, or the tenant's contents, and it's available for as little as £25 a year, including IPT. Like I say, there are some T's and C's, and it's not a silver bullet, but actually we do have an avenue and we can get you cover should you wish to. More information is available online as well. All right.
And can I just add a couple of things to that, which is to say a couple of things. First of all, hopefully I'm preaching to the converted, but absolutely critical that landlords or agents keep a good regular eye on the property to pick up that kind of problem and any other kind of problem. Otherwise, you're definitely going to have you're going to be stuck with it if you're not careful. And also to say to you that it is proposed that the Tenants Fees Act is also amended so that if a landlord had to take this insurance out, it can be charged to the tenant. It's not currently been amended, but it is proposed that within the rights bill, that amendment will take place. So hopefully that will go through.
Cheers. Thank you, Peter. What I must just mention as well on there, sorry, that hot off the press, we are in talks with both Salvation Army General Insurance Company and another insurer that we work quite closely with around reducing that cost, because we are foreseeing that there will be a big uptake on people taking out the cover, whether that be landlords or tenants, and bringing that cost down. So whereas at the moment it is £25 including IPT to add that on, we are talking with them with a view to add it as a minimal cost, maybe just rounding up to the nearest pound. We are quite far down the line of talks, and it's expected that should be in around Q3, so we should be able to shout that from the rooftops then. So with Peter suggesting that autumn time, it might be when the Renters' Rights Bill is officially sort of announced and comes in, then obviously we should have that in as well, and a cost reduction, and making that readily available and accessible then to all. Okay.
Don't hold me to that, by the way. The government could surprise us by doing what's called a guillotine and just bringing it in. So it is highly political, this thing. So.
Okay. No, thank you, Peter. Good point. Okay. So moving on then, eviction process, removal of Section 21. What is the latest on that, Peter? What can you tell our guests?
I think we can take that as a cast iron guarantee it's going to go, because that was really one of the premises of the bill. It just, I'll be willing to stick my neck out and say that is going to go, because there's no way they will stop that. So we have a lot of members who are very, very concerned about the loss of Section 21. I have to say to you that this has happened in Scotland, and talking to people in Scotland, they've managed without the Section 21. It's a nuisance, but currently you should only really use a Section 21 for two reasons. One is if you wish to sell the property, well, you will have a new ground under Section 8, Ground 1A, to sell the property or move back into it. So, but again, only the landlord can do that. Use agents can't move into the property. So it may well be that if you wish to use that ground, you will have to get the landlord to serve it. We wait to see the details of it. The other reason for Section 21 is controlling antisocial behaviour. That is going to continue to be a problem. You will have two grounds under Ground 8, 7 and 14, but they're going to be difficult to prove, very difficult to prove. So again, it does really come down to A, keeping a good eye on the property, and also B, making sure you keep lots of proof. So if you do have to go to court, and when I train landlords, I always say to them, you need a paper trail of everything you've said and everything that's gone on the assumption you go to court. 98% of the time, you won't go to court. When you do, you need that paper trail. So loss of Section 21, not a cause for panic. There are other causes that you should panic over, not this one.
Thanks, Peter. And from an Alan Boswell point of view, so again, we have a ready-made solution or an avenue to help protect yourself and get regular advice and assistance on that. So we do have a standalone legal expense cover available from £80 online. It is a quote and buy journey. It does give £100,000 legal expense cover to assist landlords in gaining possession of their property, including issuing necessary eviction notices. It also with section 21 removed, landlords must rely on the new grounds for eviction, as Peter has said, such as rent arrears or antisocial behaviour, and the policy also covers legal costs associated with these disputes as well. Also, from a tenant relationship management, landlords can access 24/7 legal advice to help navigate tenancy disputes and ensure compliance with the new regulations as well. Like I say, that is all available online, and if you want more information, please feel free to go online or contact myself directly.
But I'm going to stress, Carl, for both you and for everybody's sake, some of the questions we get on our helpline, clearly landlords are not always keeping in communication with their tenants and or not doing visits regularly enough. So they must do that, even if it's a one-way process. I always say to landlords, if you're trying to contact your tenants and they're not responding, don't stop, don't give up. And that, I would imagine, Carl, would be important for insurance to show your due diligence. So you need to keep on.
Be persistent, yeah, and like I say, I'm sure that will always be taken into account as well, and being able to evidence, obviously, the amount of effort that they've made to contact the tenants and visit and keep regular contact, etc. Yeah, absolutely, good point. Okay. Loss of ability to renew fixed-term tenancies. Then, what's the latest on that one?
Well, this is a you might have to panic over this one. You do need to be thinking about this one, because I'm aware this is going to affect agents far more than landlords, because a lot of your income is currently from renewing fixed term tenancies. You will lose that facility. So basically, again, assuming this doesn't change, government and the opposition are being lobbied very, very hard to retain fixed terms, particularly for student landlords. But whatever, we wait and see. But at the moment, they're going to go. So from for a new tenancy after the bill comes in, it will only be a periodic tenancy from day one. They're calling it a tenancy for life, and we're going to talk about this slightly separately. But from day one, the tenant can give 2 months' notice. They can give 2 months' notice from when they sign the tenancy agreement. They don't have to wait to occupy. Be careful if there's any student landlords or student agents out there. This is going to really affect them quite badly, because you often do sign the agreement before they move in. So the loss of fixed terms is going to be far more of a problem. In terms of existing fixed terms, we've had all sorts of things from the government. So at one stage they said on the day it becomes an act, all fixed terms would change to periodic. We suspect they're going to backtrack on that one. They've gone very quiet on that one, and although we've asked, we've not had any. They've not said what they're going to do. If I was to try and make a guess, and it is a guess, please take this as a guess. I'm hoping that they're going to say whatever the fixed term is it will remain, and at the end of the fixed term, you will not be able to renew it, and it'll go to periodic. But please, I'm going to repeat, that's a guess. We really don't know. One thing we've been pushing the government for and not had is a timetable. We know it may come in October, it may come in June or July, whenever the act comes in. That's only the act. Parts of it then have to be enacted, and we need a timetable when that comes in. So, watch this space is what we're saying. But as agents, you need to really think your business model and how you're going to make up the difference in the income you're likely to lose over a 12-month period from not being able to renew fixed terms.
Great, thank you, Peter. And again, just following on from that, from our perspective, so our legal expense policy as well would be able to give advice for you agents as you are transitioning from rolling periodic tenancies. Landlords must adjust their rental strategy, so Alan Boswell's legal cover provides expert advice on managing these changes. Protection against disputes, so the policy includes legal expenses for tenancy disputes as well, so it ensures that landlords can address issues relating to tenancy terms and rental agreements as well, and also rent recovery support. If tenants fail to pay the rent, landlords can claim legal expenses for recovering unpaid rent as well, helping them to maintain the financial stability that they require. Obviously, we also have rent guarantee, but we'll talk a little bit about that later, and I'll go over the features and benefits of that as well. Okay, so it feels like we're rattling through this, Peter. We are now at the stage talking around referencing and the importance of that. What can you tell us about the strategy there, Peter?
Absolutely critical, because whereas before an agent and or a landlord had the ability to use a Section 21 if they had a tenant who was giving them some minor problems, not too big problems, but some minor problems. And unfortunately, a lot of landlords have used Section 21 because they didn't fully understand the Section 8 route. As we've already said, that is now going. And so you're going to be getting a tenant for life. If they don't do anything wrong, apart from trying to sell the property, and we don't know what proof you've got to give that you're going to sell the property, but if you do evict on that ground, at the moment, you can't re-let the property for 12 months after that notice. So that's to try and stop any landlords using that as a spurious ground and evicting a tenant and then saying, oh, actually, I can't sell the property. That clearly is going to cause lots of problems to genuine failed sales. You may have you as an agent or the landlords may genuinely want to sell. You may have a sale agreed, therefore you start the eviction process and the sale falls through. Just be aware that you can continue with another sale, but you can't put anyone back into that property for at least 12 months. There's negotiations going on to try and make that 6 months. But again, it's at the moment it's failed. We wait and see what happens there. So what I'm trying to say to you is be very, very, very careful of who you offer to move into that property, because you might be stuck with them. So tenancy referencing is going to be absolutely critical, paramount, because if a future prospective tenant doesn't get, say, 11 out of 10 for referencing, you shouldn't be offering. And we've made this point to the government to say that unfortunately that's going to be a lot of tenants who at the moment some landlords might be willing to offer on the basis, well, they look a bit suspect, but I think they're genuine. And I'm going to say to them, I'm going to take you on trial, but just be aware, if you start giving me problems, you will get a Section 21. That's gone. So, unfortunately, there's going to be a lot of people who are going to be homeless in the future, which is very, very sad. We've already got an awful lot of landlords, unfortunately, who are reviewing both their portfolio and their tenants, and either a property or a tenant who's a bit suspect, they're already making attempts to get rid of them, which again is going to create a huge problem for local authorities with homelessness. But I've got to stress referencing. Really cannot stress it hard enough. I know as agents, you've probably got your own route to referencing. Karl, I know you've got a panel that you can use. So do you want to talk about that?
Yeah, so thanks, Peter. So we have partnered with a range of referencing providers who can meet your specific needs. So we've partnered with the following 5 people. So Rent Profile, Canopy, Letmojo, Verenzi's, and Letref. Now, all those guys offer a range of services within their referencing as well. So they'll do right to rent checks, employment references, open banking, tenant onboarding, credit checks, company credit checks, guarantor checks, and landlord references as well. Again, all that information is available on our website. It's just as easy as Googling Alan Boswell Group referencing, and all that information will be available to you. And you've just got to select whichever partner you like the look of, or does the level of checks. They all vary. Obviously, there's cost changes as well, differences there, so something you can consider. But please go online, find out some more information. Obviously, finding a good tenant is not always guaranteed via referencing either. Obviously, we do always recommend protecting tenancies with both the legal expenses and rent guarantee insurance as well. So again, from our respect, we have a purpose-built policy available. Its cover is available for up to £5,000 per calendar month. It's 15 months of cover in an eviction process and to guarantee the rent for up to 15 months. Plus, there's an option under our vacant possession cover to extend that by 3 months, and you get 75% of the rent for that duration. Following a successful eviction, you might need to do a quick refurb, re-advertise before getting another tenant in. We can cover those additional 3 months, like I say, for 75% of the rental amount. Also, since the change of turn of the year, we now cover change of locks and storage of tenants' contents as well, following a successful eviction. So a couple of nice additional bits of cover that's been added recently. In terms of criteria, there's no hidden agenda there. Affordability checks 2.5 times the rental amount. Need to complete right to rent and credit history checks as well. So you need to confirm that there's no adverse credit in the past 3 years, settled or otherwise. That policy can be purchased in a couple of ways. Either you as an agent can purchase the policy from us. You are our client, you settle the invoice, but pass on the benefit of said policy to the landlord within the management of their property. And again, we give you access to an online portal. You can self-serve, you can purchase the policy and get emailed documents within 5 minutes. Alternatively, if you don't fully manage or do a minimum of rent collection, or it's just a tenant fine situation only, you can refer your clients to us. They can go online and buy standalone cover for rent guarantee. Cover is restricted to £2,500 per calendar month under the direct standalone cover, and that's available from as little as £195 a year if bought alongside a landlord insurance product, as discussed previously. So we do cater for that. Like I say, more information on referencing and our referencing partners online. Having said that, if you are an agent that prefers just to do your own referencing checks, again, as long as it meets our very minimal criteria and you could evidence that, we don't need to see that at point of sale, but at claim stage, you would need to provide XYZ at that stage in terms of evidence and why you selected the cover. All right.
Yeah, I mean, again, it is really, really important, both that as agents, and you stress upon your landlords, especially if you're doing part management, if you're doing find only or something like that, and the problem's likely to come back and bite you. The days of amateur landlords have gone, quite frankly. All landlords, all agents must be professional. They must keep on top of everything they're doing. They must keep up to date with all the changes. There's a lot of changes going through. We've not only got the rights bill going through, we've got leasehold reform going through. We've got planning reform going through. Now, these might not affect you, but you don't know. They might not affect your landlords. You don't know, but you need to be aware of them. You need to keep on top of them. I mean, going back to the pets one for just a minute, I'm aware that Property Mark do details. They do a fact sheet on pets, so make sure you get that and make sure you look at it. So, as I say, the name of the game is be professional, be diligent, do your due diligence, make sure you've inspected your all your properties already, because we've got. I'm okay going on to the Decent Home Standard, Carl. So.
Yeah, of course, Peter. We're well ahead of time. So anything else you think is appropriate for the audience, let's give them the information.
Okay, right. Part of the rights bill is that that you probably, I always have to keep saying probably because it might not come in, but you probably will have to follow the Decent Home Standard. Now, the problem with the Decent Home Standard is a bit long in the tooth. It's written many, many years ago, and it's incredibly vague. And it just basically says things like we must have adequate space for food preparation. What's adequate? The property must be fit to live in. What does that mean? But it also says, laughingly, that as a landlord you must follow all the laws of the land at the time. Well, that's a legal requirement anyway, so I don't know where it's in there. But one of the things that we are strongly recommending is, again, up front of the Decent Home Standard and ahead of iHowz law, and I'll just briefly mention that in a moment, have a good look at your properties now. Those ones with problems, sort them out. If you need to get vacant possession to sort them out, then you might have to unfortunately think about that. Those which you think are not not producing, you might need to get rid of. Have a look at them. iHowz law also probably coming in. It's a bit of an odd one, this one, in as much as what it's basically saying is if your tenant reports a problem specifically to do with condensation, damp, mold, anything leading to mold, then you've got a very strict period of time to deal with it. And they're still talking about that, but you've only got, at the moment, it's 7 days to respond to the tenant to say this is what you'll do, and you're supposed to respond within 14 days of actually doing something. Some of you may be aware that if you need to get a tradesperson to do something, that can be quite difficult, and you can easily have a longer lead time than 2 weeks. This is the reason why the Conservatives actually weren't very keen on putting iHowz law into the Renters Reform Bill, the previous one, because they were a bit concerned that a private landlord might not have the facilities to be able to react quick enough to iHowz law. But basically, you've got to make your best attempt. And if you can't get a tradesperson, it's something that needs to be thought about in the future. So again, just be careful, stay on top of it. So damp and mold is a really emotive subject. It's one that's really reared its ugly head at the moment. So, Carl.
Thanks, Peter. Just one last plug from me. We do also offer an introducer scheme. So agents that are signed up as introducers of business to us can be registered with the FCA. There's no cost involved. You don't have to pay anything to be set up. We sort that all out for you. You can then benefit from referral fees. So for the landlord buying the legal and rent guarantee product direct with us, you'll benefit from a £10 referral fee. Plus, from a landlord insurance perspective, you'll also receive a commission share for if they insure their building's contents liabilities with us, and also the tenants' contents policies that we've discussed, and in regards to pet damage cover, etc. So again, agents can benefit from a £10 referral fee from recommending and pointing your landlords and tenants in our direction for that. So again, more information available online for the Alan Boswell Introducer Scheme, or just get in touch with me directly and I'll be more than happy to help you with that. Okay.
Just also to go, sorry, Carl, you're going to say?
No, I was just going to say thanks for all your information there, Peter, and all the information you provided.
We've got plenty of time, so I'll just go through a few other things that I just wanted to mention. If you're okay with that, so
the floor is yours, Peter.
First of all, just to remind people, you can put questions in the question box, so please do feel to do that, and we'll make a good attempt to respond to them if we can. If we can't respond today, then we'll try and respond afterwards, so we'll get our heads together and respond on it. A few things about the bill as it is at the moment. There's a ban on rental bidding, so basically you can bid downwards, you can't bid up. So do be careful about that one. At the moment, we've had the situation where properties have been advertised for sake of argument, £1,000, and then someone's come along and said, well, £1,100, £1,200, and that's been accepted. You can't do that. You can accept lower if you wish to, but you can't go up. Also, there's a lot of talk about the problems with advance rent payments. Advance rent has always been a problem. It's never been fully understood. Whilst you can take a deposit, there's not been any proper legal case about taking advance rent. And we've had 1 or 2 cases recently where we've had a couple of members who have quite specifically not taken a deposit. They've taken the first month's rent, which is absolutely fine, but then they've also taken what they stated in their tenancy agreement to be the last month's rent. And we've had a couple go to court where the courts disagreed and said, that's not the last month's rent, that's a deposit. So it's a difficult one to get your head round. However, they have tried to tackle that in the rights bill. We're not entirely convinced they've got it correct, but at the moment they are going to allow up to 1 month advance rent, extra rent. The only problem is you can't take that extra rent, that advance rent, until the rental agreement has been signed. So clearly, you might have the situation of a prospective tenant who's saying to you, either you, the agent, or you, the landlord, yes, I propose to take this property, and I will give you the extra 1 month's rent, not a problem at all, and then change their mind. So, and you've got no way of chasing it. You can take more than 1 month's rent if and only if the tenant offers it. So, and this is where it might be useful for, say, an overseas person who's got no credit history in this country, might be willing and able to offer perhaps up to 6 months. They can do that, and as long as, again, it's after the agreement's been signed, which clearly can cause problems. So there's potential problems with guarantors as well. At the moment, there's not too much change with guarantors. And Karl, I don't know if you want to say anything about insurance, and particularly rent guarantee, to do with guarantors. You know, when you accept guarantors, when you don't.
Yeah, so I mentioned the rent guarantee earlier on, and obviously our sort of criteria, which is fairly basic. But if there are tenants that don't meet those criterias for whatever reason, whether they don't quite meet the affordability or they've got a CCJ that means that they can't have cover directly in their own right, then we will accept guarantors over and above that. And then the guarantor then needs to meet that criteria, but the affordability, the only difference is that the affordability is slightly higher, so it's 3 times the rental amount instead of the 2.5, which is the normal basic one for all other tenants.
And do be careful about, I'm going to specifically mention students here, where you've got, let's say for sake of argument, you've got 4 people on the joint and several liability. If they're students, they almost certainly will need to have guarantors. Quite often I get the situation where the parents of person number 1 says, I'm willing to underwrite my student, but I'm not willing to underwrite all. You can write an agreement whereby the guarantor is liable for their particular person's rent, but they're liable for all the damage, any damage that's caused, because damage is a big problem, as I'm sure you all know. At the end of a tenancy, some damage has been done, and everyone points the finger at everybody else. Somebody somewhere's got to pay. That does come under joint and several liability. And again, hopefully you can take off the insurance anyway, but you need to make sure that is covered. Change the subject a little bit is one thing I think you've all got to be a bit careful about is rent to rent. So I don't know if any of you get involved in rent to rent. So if, for sake of argument, I own a property and I give it to Karl and Karl rents it out to somebody else, then my agreement with Karl will be a commercial type agreement. That's not a problem. That's not subject to the rights bill at all in any shape or form. But if Karl then puts a residential person in there, he has got a residential agreement, which is subject to the rights bill. So if I say to Karl, here's my property for, say, 3 years for sake of argument, and then in 3 years' time, right, Karl, I want my property back for whatever reason, he can't guarantee to me to be able to get the tenant out, to be able to give me my property back. And we've got 1 or 2, we're not necessarily saying this, but what we are saying is be very, very careful with rent to rent. It could cause problems in the future. And we've already got, I know Tessa Shepperson, who's done a lot of work on this, she's actively stating to actually stop doing rent to rent. She says it's going to cause huge problems in the future. So do be very, very careful with that. You might think because you're losing the Section 21, you've got no problems with the fact that you don't have to do this and you don't have to do that, etc., because none of that's covered under Section 8 route. It's highly likely, this has only been muttered about, this isn't in the bill, this will probably be introduced at a later stage. It is highly likely that for you to be able to use what's called a no fault reason under Section 8. So it's not the tenant's fault that you're evicting them. You wish to sell, you wish to move back in, something like that. Then it's likely the kind of things that are attached to the Section 21 will get attached to that kind of ground as well. That's what's been talked about. So it's highly likely that not dealing with the deposits correctly, not issuing the prescribed information, etc., will be a reason to stop that kind of ground. But again, not definite. We wait and see on that one. Also, be careful because it is, again, I'm going to be really vague on this one because government has just been so vague with us. They've talked about a portal, a property portal. And what we understand from that is it's just basically a website where you can get information. Well, they've got that already, so we don't know why they're talking about something extra. They're also talking about landlords having to join some kind of redress scheme. All agents have to belong to a redress scheme. That will probably be extended to landlords as well. It is, just to make life even more confusing, it is probable it won't be one of the two redress schemes that we got now. They're talking of another redress scheme, possibly the social housing ombudsman, but we don't know. And everyone's going, oh, please tell us, we don't know what's going on. And finally, probably there will be a database and you will have to join that and you have to be registered on it. Now, is registration separate from the database? Is the ombudsman registration separate? I can't tell you. And one of the points that we've made, and we actually did get a statement from the minister a little while ago about, it's a he at that time because it had so many ministers, basically said there'll only be one central registration point. Well, thank goodness for that, if that's the case. But there's going to be various different things that that you have to register on as landlords. And you have to be advising agents, you have to be advising your landlords these things that they need to do. Keep an eye on the bill and keep an eye on it when it becomes an act. What else we got? Oh, yeah, this is a good one. You're going to love this one. Rent increases. You may be aware that at the moment, one of the ways of doing a rent increase is through a Section 13 notice. After the rights bill comes in, that will be the only way of doing a rent increase, using a Section 13 notice. And government already saying that they will amend the Section 13 notice to basically encourage the tenants to appeal the rent that they're being asked to pay, the new rent they're being asked to pay. And that will go to the Property Tribunal. Now, the Property Tribunal already has a waiting list of about 6 months. It's going to get worse, isn't it? It's going to get a lot worse. No telling what it's going to get to. But the real sting in the tail is that the changes in the future, that the new rent won't take place until the tribunal's heard it. So if the tribunal meet and they agree that the rent you're proposing under Section 13 is acceptable, it will not take place until the tribunal's heard. The government have quite actively, openly said this is their mechanism to slow rent down. So look at your rents. If your rents are too low now, unfortunately, you might want to think about putting them up because you might have trouble in the future. So, be careful about that one. What else was I going to mention then? So the other one was, as well as pets, it's already discriminatory to discriminate against benefit people, quite rightfully so. There's been at least 2 cases, probably more, where agents have been taken to court by shelter for advertising no benefits, no DSS, that old-fashioned term, not been around for a number of years, but we still see adverts like that. They took at least 2 agents to court and won. That will apply to landlords as well. So if landlords advertise, you've got to be very, very careful. Just be careful they don't openly discriminate against anybody. If, as a landlord, you feel uncomfortable offering to somebody, then don't offer. And the other one is children. you can't discriminate against children. So, be careful there. One thing which we are really, really hoping will get thrown out completely is it is intended that the local authority will have the ability to enter premises without a warrant and seize goods. So all the agents out there, if this goes through exactly as it is, somebody could come into your property tomorrow without a warrant and saying, we're going to seize your computers because we think you're doing something illegal. Clearly, that will put you out of business. And they can seize backups as well. Most of the local authorities I've talked to said, no, we wouldn't do that. We get a warrant because we'd be so worried about getting sued. Even though it says that in the bill, we would be very worried about that one. We're pushing very hard on to get that one amended. So it may be amended. I hope that one would be. Be careful also, rent repayment orders. You may be aware of this, that if the landlord does something they shouldn't do, for certain misdemeanors, they can get a rent repayment order. At the moment, they could be ordered to repay up to 12 months rent. That's going to be extended to 24 months rent. That's a lot of money. And you can't insure that one, I'm presuming, Karl. So.
No, unfortunately not.
So all in all, just be careful, be diligent, and stay on top of it. Whatever you do, for goodness sake, be very diligent. Be also aware that the Section 8 ground date, which hopefully you're all aware of, this is the rent arrears, is going from 2 months to 3 months. So you're going to have to wait an extra month before you can serve the Section 8. And also something we found recently, this is more around Section 21, but this is going to also affect Section 8. We've got people saying, oh, we've made the application to court, we're fine, we can sit back now. That's not good enough. You need to make sure if an application to court has been made, it's actually got on the court list. Because if it's not got on the court list, particularly as a moment with the Section 21, it could get timed out. When I say timed out, you may be aware that from the day you serve the Section 21, you must use it within 6 months or lose it. Again, another change that might come about in the rights bill is that they're talking about making that 3 months, rather not 6 months, as a way of speeding the demise of the Section 21. That suggests to me, only suggests, that if you served a Section 21 and it's still there when the rights bill comes in, it will remain active. But again, we don't know. We don't know if on day one, all Section 21s are dead. We don't know if only the Section 21s that have not gone to court are dead. We really don't know. We're waiting to see. So please, if you're thinking about using Section 21s, you're rapidly running out of time. Very rapidly running out of time. Get your act together now. Now we've got 10 minutes left, Karl, haven't we? So
10 minutes. Yeah, we might have to open the floor up to questions, Peter. Maybe.
I'm disappointed we've not got questions. Go on, give us some questions.
We'll see, shall we?
Listen to us, blethering on.
Kelsey,
Okay,
how we fair for questions?
We haven't got any as far as I can see. So let me talk specifically about students if I can do. This is a real worry for both tenants and student landlords and student agencies, in that we've got a model which has worked for several years, and the government are completely ignoring that model, totally ignoring it. The only thing that they've given to student landlords, which is different from a non-student landlord, is what's called Ground 4A under Section 8, whereby this gets a little bit complicated. Depending on when you made the offer to the students, and provided they are 100% students in the property, and provided you got students coming in next time round, you can use Ground 4A to evict students. I've talked to student landlords. I'm yet to meet a student landlord who's evicted a student. They just don't do it. So this Ground 4A is just a sop. The problem is students leaving early. and that's a real problem. Again, you need to keep on top of that one. Again, it's not going to work for student tenants, because let's say, for the sake of argument, again, you've got 4 students on a joint and several liability tenancy agreement. One of them gives notice, unless it gets amended. Sorry to keep saying that. Unless it gets amended, that person has given notice for all. So the landlord could take that property back. They could insist on the tenants signing a new agreement. They could insist on the tenants taking a 4th person who they don't want. So this is really not good news for anybody in the student market. Where it does, the only people that are going to really win out of this are purpose-built student accommodation, PBSA. So they are frequently not covered by any of this. Most of all, if for no other reason, they normally don't do tenancy agreements. They normally do license agreements. By doing a license agreement, they take themselves outside most of the Housing Act law. So, again, that might be looked at in the future. But unfortunately, the biggest problem with purpose-built is it's up to double the price of normal private student accommodation. Who loses out there? The tenants. That's my little rant over, Carl.
Would that be sort of on-site university students if they're staying on the university sort of campus and the facility that they provide? Then would that fall under that?
That does fall under that, but also any big operator who's built specific accommodation which is only meant for students. So it's purpose-built student accommodation. Yes, you're quite right. Halls of residence cover that. But, I mean, we do a lot of work in Brighton. If you drive down the Lewis Road in Brighton, all you see now are big blocks being put up for students, and they're specifically and only for students. They can't be used for any other purpose. There's just hundreds of them. So, you do have to be very, very careful about that. The last thing I'm going to say to you, hopefully, as agents, you're all aware of this one, when we are training landlords, we always say to them, be very, very careful to make sure you're using the latest version of notices, the latest version of the Housing Rent Guide, etc., etc. And we go one step further and say it is a wise idea not to keep anything where you've got to make sure it's the latest version. Don't keep it on your computer. Always go to the government website and get it fresh every time. That if it's been altered, the government have already said that they will amend the Section 8 notice. It will change slightly, and they will amend the Section 13 notice. If you use the wrong one by mistake, it will get thrown out of court. You would have wasted your time, energy, and money. So please always make sure you use the latest version of a notice. Always go to the government website. Gov.uk is one of those rare animals. It's a government website that works and is useful. So, use it. So, Carl, the other thing worth mentioning is void periods, particularly, with insurance. How long does the insurance cover them if there's a void period? If the tenant doesn't vacate but goes on a very long holiday, what happens with insurance in that sort of case? Because we've had a few of those recently.
Yeah, so luckily for us, all our insurers on our scheme and our panel, they give 90 days full cover of unoccupancy. It's only after that 90 days that obviously cover then is restricted, and visitation warranties and things like that kick in. But actually 90 days is a great level of cover where you don't have to interact, don't have to let your insurance company know, and just gives you that peace of mind, really. So yeah, thanks for teeing me up on that one. But yeah, our policies do give 90 days full cover.
And the other one which landlords really like is, I always get shouted at by Boswells when I say this one, but I always call it the AA type insurance. You've got a different name for it, haven't you? Whereby, so instead of the landlord being called at 3 o'clock in the morning to say my boiler's packed up, you give them a number that they can call to say this is a problem. I strongly recommend that one. Really strongly recommend that one. So, Carl, the floor's yours on that one. He's looking it up. He can't remember it.
I know what it is. A home emergency cover. So we do have that so-called fourth emergency service cover, and Peter's absolutely right. You can even give the telephone number once you've got the cover to the tenant. So if the tenant does get an emergency, say the boiler breaks down, or loss of electricity, or loss of service water to the property for whatever reason, then they can call. They'll get the relevant third party to send an engineer around, see if they can obviously resolve the issue. And you get up to £500 per cover per event, and there is no excess to pay for using that either. So you can claim as many times as you like. And the idea around home emergency cover is that if they can stop the actual emergency, it might just stop the problem getting worse and therefore cause an additional claim under your buildings or your contents policy, for example, if it's getting saturated with water or a storm or something like that. So again, very valid cover. More information is available on our website. And like I say, it's not a boiler service product, but it is a breakdown home emergency service. So again, yeah, more information available online, and it is something that we can provide. No problem at all.
Okay, we've got 4 minutes left. Just very, very briefly mention energy requirements. It is likely, but not definite, that the requirements for meeting EPC will change at some stage. Depends if Mr. Miliband's sacked or not, which is highly likely at the moment. But at the moment, it's been rumoured, no more than a rumour, that all properties will have to meet an EPC rating of C or better from 2028 to 2030. That range of dates, the last time this was brought in, what the range of dates means is from the earlier date, if it is 2028, that's for any new tenancies signed after that date. After the later date, at the moment 2030, it'll be all properties have to meet that. I would say to you a couple of things about this. First of all, the last time they made this change, they gave a 5-year range. They're talking about a 2-year range, which is nothing. Also, if it is 2028, that's just round the corner. Really is round the corner. And if you need to do a lot of work on your property, and especially if landlords wish to spread it out over different tax years, not giving anybody time to do it, if you're going to do work to your property, do fabric first, do insulation, etc., etc. Be very careful about gas heating, because under the new EPC, gas heating might come out worse than electric heating. So the new EPC, when it comes out, might promote electric over gas. So last thing is, we would like you to join iHowz. So we are here to keep you aware of things. Do contact us, iHowz.uk, and then we can go from there. So Karl, in the last 2 minutes 22 seconds, the floor is yours.
Well, from my respect, Peter, I would just like to say a huge thank you for coming on here, being a panelist and expert. Your knowledge overwhelms me, and your recollection of all that information and how you share it and putting it in layman's terms and explaining it to all the attendees has been perfect as far as I'm concerned. So yeah, just a massive thank you, and the rest of the group for coming on and supporting us on this Power Hour. So thank you very much.
No, you're very welcome. And I'm going to do a talk tonight, which basically says, do not panic. Don't panic.
Thank you.
Right.
Hi, Kelsey.
Today's webinar.
Floor is yours.
Thank you. And we do have a lot of questions that have come through. So what I'm going to do is send these all over. Yeah, we have over 15.
Wow.
We won't have enough time to go through them today because they are quite detailed, but I will send these over. And thank you everyone for joining today's webinar, and I hope everyone has a lovely rest of the week. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks everyone. Thanks Kelsey. Thanks Peter.
Bye bye.
Thank you.